Hello everyone. This is a beautiful Monday afternoon in Adelaide, South Australia, and here I am to actually continue with the story of the journey of Israelites into the desert, away from the tyranny. Well, now the Egyptians have died because as the Egyptians were pursuing the Israelites through the parted sea, the sea actually collapsed on them and the Egyptians are dead. And actually the Israelites start singing songs to praise God the Lord. And what happens is, after some time, into the desert, because you can only imagine the problems that they come across while you're in a desert if you're unprepared. So what's happening now is that they've started complaining because obviously people are now hungry and thirsty, and they actually start remembering the good old days under the tyrant, because they said that at least in Egypt under the Pharaoh's rule they had enough food to eat, but now they've got no water and they are hungry in the desert. Well, it is very interesting for them to do this because the trade-off is that they've actually achieved freedom from the tyrant, but in exchange for that freedom they've lost their privileges to water and food. And well, that is interesting. So they start complaining to Moses to have a talk with God and provide them with food. Well, is it, and it's a very complex question that you need to ask, well, are the Israelites right in their own right to actually complain to God who delivered them from the tyrant? Well, it's a complicated answer. It's because they traded off their freedom for the privileges that they had under the tyrant. All right, so now God actually provides them with water from the rock and food from the heavens, that actually manna is bread kind of substance that was provided from the heavens to satisfy the Israelites' hunger. Well, this manna is a very interesting food because actually they had to go out and collect manna each and every day for 6 days of the week, and on the 6th day of the week they had to collect double the food for the 7th day too. The reason is that because the 7th day actually to Christianity is the Sabbath. Now what is Sabbath? Sabbath is actually the rest day technically. Now where does it come from? According to Genesis, it took God 6 days to create the heaven and the earth and everything. So on the 7th day God actually took rest. Well, that's interesting too, because then that was the tradition that's been followed by the people who believe in that higher power. All right, now there's a very interesting notion. Now why go and collect manna each and every single day, right? Now why not just collect manna on the first day and actually just keep it, or actually just collect enough for the next 6 days? Why do you really have to go out each and every single day? So as far as I can understand, the thing is that it's not enough for you have to earn the rest day, and probably you have to actually work 6 days a week to earn that rest day, to earn the rest day on the 7th day of the week, right? And probably you have to work 6 days a week every single day to stack up enough food for yourself as reserve to keep it for the 7th day. And also the thing is that the act of going and collecting the manna is the food, is the reward, right? So in that process you actually are stacking up enough evidences of your capabilities. Let's say, and if you do that for enough number of days, you're actually providing yourself with constant motivation to go and perform that act of collecting food, because at the end of the day you are getting that food. Because if you didn't go out, you would have been dead of hunger. So that evidence actually, that the act of collecting the manna from the ground each and every single day, the work that you put in each and every single day, you actually are pushing yourself beyond your limits, and eventually that acts as a source of motivation, because you know that you can do the work that you have done, which you thought that you couldn't do at one point, and eventually it evolves into discipline. Well, that's what that is. Now, as the Israelites' journey progresses, they come across another civilization called the Amalek. Well, now the Israelites and the Amalek are at war. Well, what Moses does is a very interesting thing. He goes to a mountain and he raises his hands towards the heavens and he starts praying to God. And as long as Moses' hands are upwards, the Israelites are winning. And as soon as they come downwards, the Israelites start losing against the Amalek. Well, the reason that Moses' hands are coming down is because he gets tired. Because, for how long can you really keep your hands upwards? Well, that's a very interesting thing for Moses to do, to call upon God that transcends them. There are times in our lives, well, we have to call upon something that's higher than you. You call for help, right? That's exactly what that is. To reach out to a higher power, to give you that source of energy, to conquer the problems that are in front of you. All right. Well, now, what does Moses do? Well, what happens to Moses when his hands start coming down? Aaron, Moses' brother, and Hur, another Israelite, they actually come to him and they help him holding his hands upwards, right? Well, that's a very interesting thing, to have people around you who are actually helping you to aim upwards towards the heavens. Well, in that process, obviously Israelites, the Hur and Aaron are along with Moses. So if Moses wins, his team members win, and the Israelites are saved. Well, towards the end, the Israelites are prevail against the Amalek, and they journey into the desert further. Well, now there are just too many Israelites for Moses to handle. So Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, he steps in and he advises Moses that he should just delegate his work. And that's a very interesting thing, the system of delegation, the hierarchies that are set to make the decision-making process easier. And Jethro suggested Moses that if there are any very tough decisions that need to be made, the Israelites could always come to you for the final decision-making process. All right. Well, there's a common problem in the organizations. Well, I've worked in some of the organizations where the manager thinks that educating their subordinates can be a huge problem, because they think that educating the subordinates will take the power away from them. Well, that's the recipe for a miserable organization, because there is a problem actually with that kind of thinking. Because one of the reasons is the tyrant is actually overworked, because he has to keep an eye out everywhere. And the subordinates actually feel very useless because they don't know how to handle, and they have to always run to the manager for help. Well, do you really want to work in that kind of an organization? Usually, I've also worked with organizations where the manager actually helps the subordinates to grow and prosper. It's an absolute pleasure to work with those kind of people. Let's say it's like a tree, right? The leader is the trunk part of the tree, and he or she, they actually help the subordinates to grow like the branches of the tree. Well, now how this works is, the analogy how this works is that the branches grow and they bear leaves, which actually help in capturing the sunlight, which helps in the photosynthesis process, and the branch actually provides the leaves with the water to grow. So now there is an exchange where the trunk and the leaves and the branches, they're all working together. And now what happens? So this results in the tree to go higher and higher and higher. Well, that's the most optimal strategy for an organization to reach its maximum potential and to fully utilize its resources at hand. So just to recapitulate, the Israelites were hungry, so they got food from the heavens. They were thirsty, they got water from the rock. They fought their first war with the Amalek, in which they emerged victorious. They've successfully established a hierarchy for efficient decision making among the Israelites. Well guys, this is one of the many adventures that they've yet to face. I look forward to discussing those with you in the next video. I wish you all the best.